is. It's trying to basically divide what American culture is, right? Like dividing America into all these multifaceted cultures of people that were only born in America, which is the biggest problem that I see, right? There's white culture, there's black culture, there's Asian culture, but they're all born in America. There's only American culture, right? That's what it is, right? You don't go to France, you don't go to England and say there's black English culture or white English culture. It's only one. That's the issue, which is why racism and these topics are so prevalent because of that, which is why it's always discussed, is because everyone's trying to split what American culture looks like, right? So you can have me, right? My family was born in Haiti, right? But here's the thing. If someone like JT go and say, oh, go back to your shithole country, I have all this privilege. At the exact same time, say America sucks because of racism. How? How can you do that? How on one side say it's so shitty, and then on the other side say it's so great and you have all this privilege? That's the screwed up part about it.
Oh, JT's not in here, so...
No, but I'm just giving you a prime example. Like, how do you... No, here's the thing, though, right, CO? How can you say that there's so much hate in America where you can tell Mexicans and all these other people to leave America, this isn't your country, right? But at the exact same time, when they're no longer here, you don't feel like this is your country anymore because of white people. How do you play both sides?
Oh, good. So for whatever it's worth, I hear basically when we have these conversations, let's just cut to the chase. What people are really saying is, we're tired of black people complaining. Go back to Africa. If you got a complaint and you're getting all these benefits, I'm sick of it. I used to empathize with you guys, but you black people are crying too much. You're taking too much. You're too much on the government dole. That's really what the conversation is. You don't really mean what you mean, right? What you're saying, YB, like for instance, you would never tell Mojo or JB that they should disown Jewish culture and stop speaking pro-Jewish or Zionist culture, right? So you're just literally speaking about the fatigue that you have with black people wanting to have equal justice in America. That's usually what the conversation is. So let me just cut it to the chase so that we don't have to circle around it. You would never tell a Jewish person that why do you have to be all Jewish and Israeli since you're in America? Why don't you just forget about Israel? You'd never do that. So when you're talking about black people, you're playing into the historic subjugation and demonization of the culture that was picking the cotton. That's what you're really doing. I'll leave it there.
No,
well said, CEO. Well said.
No, but CEO, that's not really what...
And I don't know, Sarah, and you were in the chat talking about... I'm trying to... we should divide American culture. What the fuck does that mean?
Wait, what are you talking about?
What'd you put in the chat?
I don't even know you... Yeah, this is crazy. So, CEO, listen. All I'm saying is this, right? I don't deal with this whole people complain. I don't deal with this whole weird people complaining about shit that they can fix for themselves, right? Or I don't complain about things that I can't change, right? Things happen, right? Okay, 500 years. Well, guess what? If you look before the United States was here, you had the French and the Spaniards and the Portuguese, right? Why aren't they in the conversation? Because they're the ones that actually started everything that's here on the West, not the United States. But that's not being discussed,
it's
right?
relative. I have a property. Most of the names are American names on all the streets, the signs, the community. So I think there's a mixture of cultures in terms of what started the United States. That's a whole story. But let me just.
Yeah, I know that. But if you go through the timeline, right? What does the timeline say? Right, I'm not worried about the streets and the signs and deja vu, even though that's French, but we use it like on every other day in America, right? I'm talking about where it all started from, right? Because if we want to start in say 500 years, right, we got to look further, right? Right. That's all I'm saying. That's all. That's literally all I'm saying.
It's a big conversation that we're having. So we can look at 500 years, we can look at 5,000, we can look at 50,000. We can talk about the original people in America, in the Americas. We can talk about all kinds of things. You know, historically, we're just programmed to discuss what we discuss. That's why the conversation is about where did you learn it. My answer to the question, we learn it every goddamn word, from the books to the home. Our parents don't even know how to unpack half this shit. So if we're ever to get past it, and just like Mojo said, he don't have all these conversations. I don't either. I rock with all colors of people. I don't have these conversations everywhere, but they have them on Clubhouse. I participated in a couple of them. But at the end of the day, if you guys want to Google Jane Elliott, she has the Blue Eyes, Brown Eyes Project. Of course, nobody that doesn't have to have this conversation wouldn't want to have this conversation. Some of the people who are more vested in it are the people who care about the issues, just like any other political or cultural issue that happens. People talk about the shit that matters to their culture. I've never been raped, you know what I'm saying? But there's women that have been endured a domestic abuse that have these conversations because they or somebody in their environment has been affected. I can't say, let's stop talking about domestic abuse. Let's have a great day. No, to a woman that's impacted, that matters. So people talk about the shit that matters to them. Let me just say this really quick and I'll land. Who benefits from all this divisiveness? Let's talk about that part. And the sidebar, Trump complains about America all day, every day. I'm so sick of him whining and complaining about what Joe did and what Barack did and what this president didn't do and what all these other people didn't do. So he's the complainer in chief all the goddamn time, but that's a whole other story. But who benefits from the divisiveness, right? Who benefited from the Indians against each other, the Cherokees and the Creek? You know what I'm saying? The Algonquins and the Comanches. Who benefited from that, right? America did. That's the only reason they were able to take over the country, because they pitted this Indian group against that American group. Black people, light skin against dark skin. Who benefited from that? Slave owners. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is, in this world that we're living in right now today, people are benefiting from exacerbating the Civil War fault line, pitting white people against black people, blue lives against black lives. You know what I'm saying? To me, this is about leftists. We used to have a thing politically where people at least worked on bipartisan stuff as a North Star. Even if we didn't get it done, there was an ambition and an aspiration from it. Now it's the demonization of parties. So there are people who actually politically benefit from dividing and fragmenting Americans. And it's not just black people that's sitting up here making this stuff up. There's some people, even black people are, arguing against Caribbean, talking about who's foundational and who's here and there. People who are in position to gain power always benefit from a fragmented electorate. So let's talk about the beneficiaries that are exploiting people for their own political and profit, the political gain and profit gain. That's the problem.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, CEO. And I'm all for that discussion too, because I see it all day. That's why I don't buy into it. I'm just curious as hoping that more people actually see that and stop buying into it and actually work together. Because at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, if there is a World War III, this conversation's done with, right? I'm all for going to war again at this point. You know why? Because I know we'll all come together as Americans and we'll stop these conversations.
America today.
He's willing to go fight World War III so we can stop talking about racial identity politics.
I kind of slightly disagree with the statement that someone said earlier that we aren't having these conversations in public. I feel like we're having them ad nauseum, and to CEO's point, I'm not sure it's actually helping. I think my generation and the generation before me were kind of damned. They tried really, really hard to kind of inject the cultural, awareness into everybody. But I think, like someone said, it's kind of backfired slightly. I have a young kid, and I'll tell you two things. I want a diverse classroom, 1,000%. I also don't want that diverse classroom to be spending every 5 minutes talking about how each of those kids are different. I think the way we get over this is to have absolutely diversity. But in my experience, watching my young daughter, if you just put them in a classroom with diverse kids, they don't know the history of every single one. They don't know how the blacks were, unfortunately enslaved. They don't know about the Jewish history, the Holocaust. They don't know about the Japanese that's people that all they know is they walk up to the first kid they see, they say hi, they shake hands, and they're friends for the next year. And to me, that's the way that we make this thing work, is we just, instead of highlighting the differences from the age of 3, we just let them walk in, figure out that they're cool people, and just make the diversity normal without having to stress over and over and over again. Like if my 8-year-old daughter meets someone who's Japanese, I don't understand, there's a better than zero chance that her grandparents were an internment camp during World War II. That's not necessary for them to know. All they need to know is this kid's Japanese. I think she's great. Let's play Legos together. And I think as long as we normalize the diversity and not hyper stress on history, I actually think that gives the next generation hope. I feel like our generation and the generation before us, the generation before that, were squabbling all the time, and it's always a big fight about who had the worst experience. And the reality is lots of people had bad experiences, and I think the key is just to move on from it. That's my thought. Keep the diversity, but don't keep the harping on it. Just make it naturally, meld together in time with the latest generations, and write our generation off because we're screwed. That's my thought anyway.
Man, the same thing. Every time you hear this from a white person, I'm just like roll my eyes because I'm like, I don't know if you're in the U.S., but we have direct correlations to health disparities in this country based on racial skin tones because inequalities have not been addressed, right? You can't just gloss over the fact that we have problems in society because I'm conveniently white and my group doesn't have those problems. That's not how we move forward as a society.
Let me clarify. I'm Jewish. I'm not just white.
You fall into the white category. I don't care if you're Jewish.
Dude, I'm subjected to all this stuff too, and I still don't want everyone to know about the Holocaust. My kid's best friend, who happens to be black, to know that her grandparents died in the Holocaust. It's not relevant. So this isn't just I'm a white dude thing. I'm part of an oppressed group as well. But I don't see how it benefits my kid to make sure all of her friends.
It does not help society to have one group consistently behind based on things that they have control. I think it's ridiculous. Go ahead, ma'am.
Hold on a second, Black Girl, if I could. Hey, Mark and Mother, for whatever it's worth, the intersection between both of your idealism and my humble opinion is both of you are saying something. You're saying that the way we address whatever diversity is supposed to be, however we address culturally, working together in the future, it has to be redefined and done properly. Both of you are saying that. So we're to Mojo's point, we're not going to get that shit right today. But what we know is the way that we've been doing it, between conversations that are here or whatever, there is a pathway. There is a way to do this. I think it's implicit bias, grade level certifications that are mutual. That doesn't just deal with here's slavery, here's the Holocaust, blah blah blah. These things bad, blah blah blah. I think there's a strategic way that nobody's yet implemented that we can help our children learn how to dispense with their biases in a more fruitful way and a more intelligent way. That's the baseline. Whatever that thing is that's X, we can define it. We just haven't done a proper job. So we're all on bullshit. Every adult, every human that has the capacity to do it, everybody black and white that's complaining about the shit, we're just saying that we haven't done it right. And that is a freaking fact.
I agree with you. Like I said just a second ago, I feel like our generation and the generation before us is screwed. And so whatever we've been trying so far hasn't been working. I think getting a nice diverse school group together, but without hopping on it, which is what we have been doing, is a different tactic. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. But I think what we're doing now is not working. I agree with you.
And I'm going to see the Florida King, smart guy.
Wait, did this black want to go? The young lady, she was trying to go.
I'm gonna let Black Girl, please let you go. I just want to say this before I tip out in a minute, or for whatever it's worth. Hey, Black Girl, you know what? Let me respect the woman. King would probably suggest that be done. Let me let you speak, Black Girl. Please go ahead and say what you were gonna say.
Yes, I wanted to ask Sarah what she meant by me being a victim. I can't stand when Asian people call black people victims. What do you mean I'm a victim?
No, why don't you just stop causing?
Why are you calling me a victim? My people are not victims, ma'am. We're survivors. What are you talking about? And then you made a comment in there about no reparations. Ma'am, I'm not even addressing you or talking to you. You started with me.
You're so obsessed with me that you're even like.
Oh, please, honey, no, don't go there. That's a downer.
This is what they mean. This is what they mean by saying, woman shouldn't be on the stage. I kind of get it.
So are you trans, Sarah? Well, like, what do you identify? Are you not a woman?
I don't know. Do you identify as a woman?
I'm just wondering, because that comment
I'm wondering because your name is Mother, so I will call you she from now on. I'm sorry.
You can call me she, I don't care.
Okay.
Call me whatever you want.
You know what? I just don't hear enough of in this conversation ever is the acknowledgement that in-group preference exists. In-group preference could be related to a race. It could be related to a religion. It could be related to your own home, your own neighborhood. Sports fans have their own in-group preference. Try sitting in the wrong section of a Raider game with your Chiefs hat on. You'll find out about in-group preference real quick. It exists. The question is, how do you take in-group preference, acknowledge that it's a real thing, and then try to ease the worst of the consequences that come from it? Because we're not going to get rid of in-group preference. This is something we're wired with. And so I think what we need to learn is we need to figure out, okay, can we acknowledge what our in-group preferences are? And then just figure out how to not kill each other. I think if we were to do something that approached that, I think we'd be better off than just listing grievance.
Hey, Roger, the problem comes in when the government have an in-group preference. That's where the problem
I 100% agree with you. And this is why I am much more interested in ideas than I am with identity. If I'm trying to figure out, who would be likely to harm me or want to kill me, it's usually the ideas that they have and not their identity.
I think Bojo, for whatever it's worth, I think you make a good point. And then I'm a Cleveland Browns fan for whatever it's worth, man. You know what I'm saying? We get shit no matter what. No matter what color I am, we get it all over the place for whatever. So I do agree with the concept of, humans are human. We're a wretched species that dislikes what we like, and there's nothing wrong with that. To me, that's why I hate when people say that I'm colorless and race doesn't exist. If you can't see my big ass nose and my brown skin, then you already got a problem. I think we should recognize people for our diversity without alienating people for it. You know what I'm saying? More in a celebratory way and let people be a part of their tribe. And what I'm saying is, to that goal or that aspiration or that North Star, we just need a collective process. Somebody just need to sit down on a curriculum or some programming that we do it so we don't have to have these dumbass conversations 20 years from now. So I agree with you, but we got to always say that the thing is broken and we can fix it so we don't have to have these stupid conversations. I'll leave it there.
Well, I think it's easy for everybody else to say get over it when the Black Holocaust hasn't been paid for. When you have Americans in this country that know the Black Holocaust happened and then call it handouts when it's really a debt that's owed to our ancestors. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, and that's not victim, that's a survivor. And we have to do it because my thing is this. My thing is this. If we're going to embrace being Americans, then you have to pay for the original Holocaust that happened in America. I'm not mad at money that went to Jewish survivors. I think it should go to them. I'll be honest with you. I think there's a lot of reparations owed to a lot of people here. But until we can face our history, how the hell do you stop talking about race? It's never going to happen.
Well, I was just going to say, I think everybody's bingo card is complete now. Anytime we go through the popular terms here, reparations is usually the final word on the bingo card. So congratulations, we've all got a bit
missed on regime change. Yeah, and to King's point, I mean, I get 100% what he's saying. The trouble is there's no definition of success. To follow up on reparations, for example, and I'm not saying that it's not justified either, but let's say reparations are finally given to the African American community, and good luck to them. The Japanese might just say, well, what about us? We were stuck in friggin' internment camps. This is bullshit. What about our shit? There's to someone's point, there's been a lot of people who've been horribly affected. That doesn't mean you shouldn't make up for it. But I don't know how you're ever going to get to the point where you're like, okay, we have addressed this. I don't think there's
realize that Japanese for internment camps did get reparations.
I do realize that. But, there's certainly people out there who can claim that, they've been affected a couple generations down the line. Similarly, the way that, people in the African American community very legitimately say, look, we've been affected a couple generations down the line.
That's not the same argument. I mean, if they would have gave reparations to the slaves, then nobody down the line would be making that argument. Just like the Japanese got their reparations, so there's no way down the line the Japanese should be making that argument. So you trying to conflate some stuff that don't make any sense, but you can go off on this.
Well, we can agree to disagree, I suppose. But I think there's a lot.
No, you're just wrong. You just flat wrong. I disagree.
No, everything you said was facts, bro. I think the thing is, a lot of people in Clubhouse like to argue opinions, and that facts. What Akima said was facts. Germany paying reparations to Holocaust survivors is facts, right? Obama earmarking money to Holocaust survivors is facts, right?
The Japanese getting reparations is fact, right? I'm with you, King.
That's what I'm saying, man.
Hold on. Let me respond to Akima, though. Here's the difference, though, Akima, is that, and I don't want to get in a debate about reparations, but there is a difference in the fact that the internees themselves were given money. It wasn't people after the fact asking for the money. It was the internees themselves that got the money.
I agree.
And so you hold on, and I know that the response would be, yeah, well, that's why the people that were oppressed back in the day, they should have got it. The other thing is the dollar amount. It was $20,000. I have a feeling, I have a sneaky suspicion that if the government was to come forward and say, hey, if you can prove any ancestry, any lineage whatsoever to those that were enslaved or impacted in any way through Jim Crow laws, here's $20,000. I would bet that would open a bigger can of worms, and that because the dollar amount that I've seen people asking for was like something like $4 quadrillion or something like that, which is like $150 million per person, right? So if you're chasing down the Japanese model, again, you got to consider it was the actual internees, and they only got 20,000.
Hey, Roger, I think you missed Mark when he said about black people.
I was responding to you. I'm not talking to Mark.
Right. No, I'm just saying what messed up with the question, what you just said, though. Because I said everything you said. What he said was that black people talking about reparations. He's like, what the Japanese want reparations? Like, they got it. I just cleared up that they got it. So by him saying that was false. Then by me responding to that about Japanese got there, then they're going to say, well, some of them can still make the claim down the road that they didn't get their money. It's comparing it to black people, which don't make no sense, and we never got a dime from the get-go. Like, he's conflating things, trying to make an argument that has no grounded in reality. He's like stretching the truth somewhere. When not the truth, he's just flat out lying.
I'm not combative with you. I told you I think it's totally legit if they get reparations. I'm not saying they don't. I'm just trying to make the point that it's not.
Can I opt out of paying it?
I'm not even asking for reparations. I'm just going.
No, I'm asking Mark. Mark's saying he believes that people should get it. I'm just asking, can I opt out of paying it?
Me too.
You got to give your citizenship. You got to give up your citizenship and opt out and move out the country.
No one's paying reparations.
Where do you want me to go? You want me to go to Liberia?
Go to Portugal.
Hello, can you hear me?
Actually, take your white dollars and go to DR. You buy some problem.
I don't like their food, respectfully.
So it's too rice heavy. I also think like some people just don't like Latino food. I don't like too many Mexican food, to be honest. I think tacos are overrated. The corn tortilla.
I think you're fucking overrated. Tacos are amazing.
Oh, there we go. Corn tortillas are nasty.
Oh, now you've fucking done it. Listen, I'm not even going to respond. Doesn't even work. Not even.
For the record, I really wasn't trying to offend King. All I was trying to make the point of is that there's a lot of people in this country who have been aggrieved over the course to our history, unfortunately. And so I think the statement that we can't stop talking about this until it's been properly addressed. I think the word properly addressed is going to be a moving goalpost. And, let's say tomorrow, and this is hypothetical, let's say tomorrow, to someone's point, they said, okay, every African American who can prove leading interest slavery in America gets $50,000. Maybe there's a portion of African Americans that say, thank you, you've addressed it. But there's going to be another portion of Americans who say, that's bullshit, that's not nearly enough.
Yeah,
So it's not actually going to address it.
So let me respond to Alyssa in the chat. Alyssa says 20,000 in 18. What the hell is that noise? What the hell's going on? Okay, so Alyssa says in the chat that 20,000 in 1860 is equivalent to approximately 774,000. The problem is that $20,000 that was paid to the Japanese was paid in 1988. So what you would have to do is you would have to say to yourself, if we were to issue reparations now, what is $20,000 in 88 worth today?
And Roger, like this same person, Alisa, just 10 minutes ago in the chat, she was saying Holocaust is history. I mean, do we have slaves right now? Because we have Holocaust survivors. Like, I don't even understand. How can you say Holocaust is history, when we still have Holocaust survivor, and then ask for reparation when we don't have any slave survivors? Like, this is like generations gone. And then she says I'm racist for saying,
That's not true. There are some slave survivors. There are still slaves. There were slaves that were working all the way to 1960s, ma'am. Sit down.
Really? Hold on. Can somebody Black? Can you please post your receipts in the chat for everyone to see that there were slaves in 1960?
Okay. I mean, there are people.
Go Google it.
Wait, there are people in forced labor today. What are we talking about that exists? Like,
They still got plantations. What are you talking about? Go Google it. You'll figure it out. I think what was the Whitney plantation was the last plantation.
Hello, can y'all hear me? Go on mute, JW.
can you give a list of Black survivors that are slave survivors?
Fuck you.
I don't understand. Why are you so into Black people getting reparations? I thought you said you're from Iran.
You just claimed we have slave survivors. I said I want to see that list because there is no such a thing. You just made shit.
What do you mean there's no such a thing? No. You're not even Black, so sit down.
Show us. I don't have to be Black. You guys are asking.
Then don't take on reparations. It doesn't affect you. It does not affect you.
Listen, well, it's my fucking money.
Stop calling me a victim. You don't have no right to call me a victim. I'm not no motherfucking victim.
And you're claiming there are slave survivors, and I want to see a list of those slave survivors. When
Go Google it.
You guys have the audacity to say Holocaust is history, but then you say we have slave survivors.
I never said that. I never said that, ma'am. I never said that.
If you have noise in the background, please mute. It sounded like the flea market.
Okay, what about now? Can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Okay, so you guys have been all over the place with this, and like a lot of times you can't really have a conversation if you can't even have an agreement. So let's just agree on this. Yeah, there was Black people who were held in bondage in this country, okay, and that bondage ended in 1865 for some, and then a little later for the rest. But the things that happened between 1865 and 1965 were probably worse in some regards. So I know everybody wants to think that when slavery was over in 1865, that was the end of it. When that was actually the beginning. That's when the Black codes and all of the state laws and all of as commerce, grew and grew, Black people were locked out. We had the Freedmen's Bank that was stolen from us.
that money went to white men, and they speculated and lost all that Freedmen's Bank money. I know half of y'all don't even know what the fuck the Freedmen's Bank is, okay? And the Freedmen's Bureau, and all those things that were set forth to help black people become successful in the United States were taken away. And then you had the whole, running black people off of their lands in the South, and just make all this is history. I don't have to sit here and tell you. I know a lot of you don't know it, but this thing really happened. So when you sit there talking about reparations for slavery, hey, well, yeah, slavery stopped back then, but there's so much other shit that happened. And then let's just talk about the pure fact that, and white people should be ashamed of themselves if they can't read. They really should. They should be, they should be mocked and ridiculed, white people, if they can't read. But black people, hey, they actually made laws to make sure that we weren't able to read, and the penalty of reading sometimes, being able to read, was death. So, people here, I know you don't know it, most of you. I can just listen to your mouth and tell that you don't know shit. But I'm here to tell you that, there was another 100 years after that. Now, I've lived through, from the 50s to now, I've seen a lot of changes, and a lot of things were getting better. But then, when Obama got elected, that is when white people lost their mind. It's just like the white people who didn't want disco music. I know y'all don't know this story, so I'm gonna tell it to you. So right around in the 70, about 75 all the way to 90, 79 and 80, disco music was becoming very popular. They were playing it on all the radio stations. It was taking over. All the rock people, all the rock and rollers were getting mad because disco was taking over. So what did they do? They had a white riot in Chicago at the ballpark to say that they burned all the disco records. Okay, literally started a fucking riot to burn the damn.
Not the disco records.
This is
my word.
Shit. This is true shit. No, it just tells you how fucking petty.
We should get reparations for them disco records.
You how petty white people are, and you're petty too, because you can't even let me finish speaking, and I'm telling the truth.
No, check up with that for your respect.
No.
You hang on for a second. No, hang on for a second. With every respect, you have been talking for a long amount of time. Could I ask?
Hey, no.
I am being respectful. Believe it or not, I'm actually being respectful.
Hold on, Ro, he's been moved. Listen, Papa Smurf. If you want to fucking have a conversation, you're welcome to join it, but you're not going to fucking hijack it. Just because you're 70 fucking years old and you feel that age makes you wiser, you didn't land a fucking single point. You went from race grievances into, let me tell you about disco in the 70s. We get it. You're fucking...
That was kind of mean.
I agree. It was fucking. It's very disrespectful to compare what black people had to go through to burning disco records. Papa Smurf's a fucking it.
How about him being old?
Hey, that's just a reality. You think he's young? Take a look at his fucking picture.